There for Care is brought to you by CareScout with the goal of sharing real-life conversations about aging care. Views expressed on this program are the speaker's own. We do not provide medical, legal, tax, financial, or other professional advice. Always talk to your own professional advisors for advice tailored to your needs.
Welcome back to There for Care, a podcast all about navigating aging care, whether for yourself or a loved one. My name is Katy Boyles, and our guest today is Jenny Morris. She's a program development manager for the Live Well, Age Well program at Genworth, and she is also a certified caregiving guide and certified dementia practitioner. And today we are going to talk about one of the most important but hardest parts of caregiving, and that's remembering to care for yourself. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I figured we would just start with you explaining a little bit about your background in this area.
Okay, absolutely. So, my caregiving journey starts many years ago, but I'll fast forward a little bit to professionally how it came about. My mother was a director of nursing and long-term care for pretty much my whole childhood. So I always had a passion for helping older adults. And that led into a career in senior living for me. So I spent 20 plus years in senior living sales. And then got this opportunity at Genworth to work in the care and wellness space, which led me to an opportunity to work with caregivers here at Genworth, and policyholders who are caregivers. And really, the caregiver journey started mostly in senior living because I was constantly giving tours to caregivers. And that led to caregiver support groups. And then as my passion to help caregivers continued on, I started to look at opportunities with different organizations to help deepen my skills and my knowledge base to be able to support caregivers better. And that led me to my certification to be a certified caregiving guide, and then the certification for dementia practitioners, because I do have a really strong affinity in helping caregivers navigate caregiving for somebody with cognitive impairment. It is probably one of the hardest caregiving roles there is. So really better understanding cognitive impairment, better understanding dementia as a whole, and how I can best support caregivers through that time.
Yes, and so professionally there's that, but you've also been around caring for others since a very young age.
Yes. So as I said, my mother was a registered nurse, is a registered nurse, and most of my childhood was a director of nursing and long-term care nursing facilities. So I spent my childhood in those nursing facilities at the activities events, or on snow days, I was doing laundry or serving meals. But personally, we started taking care of my grandparents at home when I was 8. My grandfather had cancer, and he could no longer sustain the treatments, and the treatments were no longer working. So at that time, my mother said, I want to take care of you at home. And he said, I'm really glad I put you through nursing school. So she brought him and my grandmother, because my grandmother had macular degeneration and couldn't be alone. So they came to stay with us temporarily until he passed. And then, as I said, with the macular degeneration, and at that time, there weren't the resources there are today. So my grandmother had to permanently move in with us after he passed, which was a huge change for her. So that's when the caregiver journey started. And then she lived with us until she passed when I was probably 22. So that's kind of how that journey started, and then continued, and still continues today.
Mm-hmm. And so today you're also helping care for someone. Isn't that right?
Yes. So I have aging parents. My father is 80. He just turned 80 in July. My mom is 79. And they don't need a lot of what I would call care right now. They don't need help with their independent activities of daily living or their activities of daily living. It's more support. It's more, I have boxes that need to come up from the basement, and I don't want them going down the basement stairs. Or, can your son come over and help with the yard work that needs done. I don't want daddy getting on the ladders. Or then there's my husband's father, who's actually in a independent living community near us. And he has some health challenges that we are navigating. He just got out of the hospital, and there's a lot there that I'm trying to navigate as an in-law, not being directly responsible, but helping my husband navigate and working with caregivers to make sure he has the support he needs at his community as well.
So it sounds like you've had different experiences at different ages.
Yes.
And having to find the balance. Obviously, when you are young and a child, you're not having to worry about your own family or your kids going on. Can you talk about how that has been throughout your life, to see in the different moments for how you learn to balance?
So, first of all, it taught me an appreciation for family, for caregivers, but for the time you get to spend with your loved one that you're caring for, and the dedication that that takes, and the sacrifice that comes along with it. I saw at a very, very early age the sacrifices that my mom had to make, not just to care for her residents, but to care for her parents, and what that was like for her to go to a job where she took care of people all day and then came home and had to take care of her parents. My grandmother was very independent. The macular degeneration just prevented her from driving and being able to do those things that you need to be able to see to do. But she did our laundry for us to stay busy. She loved doing laundry. She cooked our meals for us. She made my bed every day. She spoiled me rotten. So really, in those early years, she was caring for me more than I was caring for her. But the second I got my driver's license, it became, okay, you get to take me where I want to go. You're my chauffeur now. And so we really developed a very close bond. And that's something I didn't really appreciate until later on. But seeing the progression through my years and being able to reflect back on it now, and how in each age range, what exactly I learned from each stage about myself, about my mom, and the strength that she had to be able to do what she did every day, and my grandmother, the courage it takes to let somebody help you, I think was a big learning moment for me. And through caring for my grandmother, I think I was in high school when they found a spot on her breast, and she ended up having to have a double bilateral mastectomy. So we cared for her through that. And then it wasn't long after that she had she may have had the heart attack first and had the quadruple bypass. So 2 major health events while she was living with us that we had to help her recoup from. And she bounced back from both of them beautifully. We still traveled, and she did all the things that she loved to do right up until she got really sick when I was in college. They found a spot on her lung, and she said, I'm 86 years old, and I'm just not going to do anything about it now. I don't have the stamina for treatment, and I don't want treatment. And so she made that very brave decision, and we took care of her at home until she passed. And I'm grateful that we got to do that. I'm grateful for the moments we shared when it was just her and I, because my mom and I would have to take shifts, and we would have to figure out a schedule for taking care of her.
And how did your family's approach to caregiving shape how you see it is today?
I think definitely, I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back on it, it's that collaborative effort. We could not have done it by ourselves. My mom could not have done it by herself. And being probably pretty early on in the sandwich generation is what she was, right? Because she had us at home, and she had my grandparents, and she was working a full-time job. So she couldn't have done it without the support of my dad. She couldn't have done it without the support of my grandmother to be able to raise me. And then we have the later years where my mom and I were tag teaming, taking care of grandma. And the fact that we had to figure out, okay, I'm going to go away this weekend to go see my college friends. And so she knew she had to be home, and she and my dad were there to manage whatever care, or her siblings would come in to help. And then, there were weekends where I said, why don't you and daddy go away? Let me stay home with grandma. We'll have fun. We'll do stuff. And my sisters would come and help. And they'd bring over their children, which was always fun for my grandmother. So, but it was true collaboration that made it work. And as a caregiver, I don't think you appreciate that until later on when you can reflect back as to how important that is to have a team around you.
And that's such a perfect topic of you can't do it alone. You need other people. And we hear all the time about caregiver burnout. What is truly at stake when a caregiver hits that moment?
If I'm being honest, it's their mortality. Caregivers tend to prioritize everything else over themselves. I can go to the doctor appointment next week. I can go pick up my meds later. I need to take care of mom. I can eat. I miss breakfast. I'll eat lunch. I miss lunch. I'll eat dinner. Oh, well, I haven't eaten. Let me just eat a snack before I go to bed. Oh, where's my water? I can't find it. Oh, I'm getting pulled in this direction. So before you know it, all the facets of their well-being, their emotional health, their physical health, their physical well-being, all of it is starting to decline. In fact, we see that, I believe it's the CDC says that 40% of caregivers experience 2 or more chronic illnesses after becoming a caregiver. So that's how much the body just fights against, and you can't do anymore. There's a analogy I like. You liken it to a bank account. If I continue to make withdrawals over and over and over again, but I don't make any deposits, there's not going to be anything left to withdraw. So really making those deposits to yourself is just as important. And I wish that more caregivers could see that and really appreciate that, because whether it's putting a team around you or just saying, you know what, I need 10 minutes. I need 10 minutes for myself to regroup, to reset, to eat something, to drink some water. It's so vital, because if they're not taking care of themselves, they're not going to be able to care for their loved one. And it's a harsh reality, but I've seen it firsthand. My father-in-law is near us in an independent living community because his wife passed and his wife was his caregiver. And it's the harsh reality of it, unfortunately, but she became a statistic. And it's so hard to rationalize that when you're in that role. Like, I'll be fine. I'm not the one who's sick. I'll be fine, until you run yourself down to the point that you're not fine. And unfortunately, then you're both suffering.
And I'm sure it's easy to say. It's one of those topics where it's so easy to tell someone that they need to focus on caring for themselves, but in the moment, and especially for the caregivers listening, what are some self-care practices that actually work, that are doable?
I think the first thing you have to figure out as a caregiver is, what is it that helps me rejuvenate? What are the things that help me press my reset button, that help me feel energized? Because until you figure that out, I can tell you all day, oh, you should try meditation, you can journal, you can go get massages and go get your hair done and your nails done, but that doesn't work for everybody. So I think each caregiver really needs to sit down and make a list. What are the things that help me feel that sense of refreshment? And then at that point, you've got to be intentional about working those things into your day. And you can start small. You can say, okay, 5 minutes today. I'm going to go for a walk for 5 minutes. 5 minutes seems like nothing. Everybody can do something for 5 minutes. And then tomorrow build up to 10, or next week build up to 10, or next week add something from your list. But it's so important that you're intentional about working those activities into your day and making them a habit. Because once they're a habit, it'll be easy to work that into your schedule.
That sounds more like a mindset shift of having to adapt into that way.
Yes. It's definitely a mindset shift. It's definitely a change in perspective, especially when you're really in the thick of it. If I could give caregivers a piece of advice, it would be plan early. If you have the luxury of planning and preparing to be a caregiver. Do it. Ask the questions, learn all you can, start creating your care team so that when you need it, your care team is there. When you have those habits in place, they're easy to transition when you're caregiving and when you're in the thick of it. But unfortunately, some people don't have that luxury. So really, when they're in the thick of it, it's hard to say, okay, I'm gonna go walk for 5 minutes, or I'm gonna go pick up my meds today. And I think too, when caregivers do get a break because they have somebody else coming in to provide care, whether it's family or a paid caregiver, they will say, okay, I've got all these things I need to do. I've got to go pick up mom's meds. I've got to go by the bank. I've got to run to the post office. All these things that have to be done. But they forget about the things that are going to help them rejuvenate, the things they want to do. So definitely trying to figure out the balance between the things that need to be done and the things that they want to do for their overall well-being.
And a big part of it, what you keep saying, is having a team around you. And so for someone who is in the thick of it and is not seeing what team could be helpful to them, what resources should they start to look into?
I think the best place is their local agency on aging. Everybody's local agency on aging has a plethora of resources. As a senior living sales professional, I used to market to my agency on aging and make sure they had enough materials. So whether it's senior living communities, nursing facilities, home health, hospice providers, elder law attorneys, they all market to these agencies on aging and make sure that they have enough materials to be able to give the person that comes in and says, I don't know where to go. This is what I need. Help me. And a lot of these agencies on aging have somebody who will sit down with you and talk to you about what you need and how they can best help you. They have caregiver programs. Most of them have caregiver programs that you can ask about. And then there's national resources. There's caregiver.org that has a plethora of information for caregivers. If somebody is a veteran or is caring for a veteran, the VA can be a tremendous resource, and they have caregiver programs as well.
And so for the caregivers who are listening right now, who might just be feeling guilty about taking time for themselves, what would you really want them to take away from what you're sharing?
The first thing is it's okay to feel guilty. It's normal. It's okay. You're going to be okay, but you're not in this alone. You have people around you. You have support around you. And if you don't feel supported, reach out to a support group. There's virtual support groups. There's local support groups that you can reach out to. And again, reach out to your agency on aging if you can't find one. But it's so crucial to not bear it alone, to not do it alone, and to make that time for yourself, whatever that looks like, whatever stage of caregiving you're in, really taking the time for yourself, making yourself a priority, and surrounding yourself with people that will help. And so many people want to help. And a caregiver once said to me, I don't even know what to ask for. I've got so much going on. I don't even know what to ask for. I said, make a list. Make a list of all the things that you need help with. And then make a list of all those people who have offered to help and try to match it up. Sue is always out. She is always at the store. I can get her to pick up medications for me and it won't be an inconvenience. Joe down the street loves fix-it projects. Mom's sink is leaking. I can ask him to come and look at it for her. So really think about, what do I need help with? Who can help me with those things? And you've just created yourself a care team. Add in the doctors and the professionals that are going to help you and your support group and your friends and your family. And you've just built a really powerful care team so that you don't have to do it alone. Because sometimes it can be lonely and it can be absolutely overwhelming. So if you're open to it, let people help you. Let people support you, because that's the best way to get through it.
And it sounds like sometimes maybe you just need someone like you to sit there and say it's okay. And that here's an idea of what you can do, but you truly are not alone, and to think a little bit broader than if someone traditionally is just thinking of family and they might not be in town next to them.
Right. Absolutely. I think, support can come in so many different ways, whether it's an advisor through your local agency on aging, a neighbor, a friend, a not everybody has family that can support or that will support, and not everybody has an extended family that's very big. So sometimes you have to look elsewhere. But I think getting creative and looking elsewhere and knowing where your strengths are and where you need help, I think are the biggest things as far as really opening yourself up to how you can be supported and then letting that support come in.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for joining us today and reminding everyone how important when you are caring for someone that you need to not forget to care about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an important topic. And as I said, if I can get one message across to caregivers, it's make yourself a priority too.
Definitely. Well, thank you for joining There for Care by CareScout. Be sure to like and subscribe. We will also link all of the resources that were mentioned during this, and we will see you back soon.